Hey everyone. So today or now we're doing the panel on next generation protocols. And over the past, although NFTs started on Ethereum, and Ethereum I would say is still has the most activity with regards to NFT minting and integrations. There is now a increasing number of new or existing protocols that are integrating NFTs. So here we have an esteemed panelists that are focused on integrating NFTs in new and exciting ways. We have Paul from Alchemy, we have Colin from Zilliqa, and we have Daniel from Origin Protocol. So yeah, I'm excited to hear all of your perspectives on how you're learning from what Ethereum's done and doing new innovative ways, doing new innovative things with NFTs. So yeah, first, I think it would have value for you guys to all share your backgrounds. Daniel, you wanna start?
Sure. So I'm an engineer. I solve problems, practical problems, like how do I keep hackers from stealing millions of dollars from our DeFi projects, or make sure that, we had an $11 million NFT sale, make sure all that gets to the artist, as well as how do we keep the site up when millions of people are trying to get to it or at the same time. So I am deep in the trenches, and at the same time are just involved in every technical aspect of the NFT side.
And Daniel, as far as your background, how you got into crypto and Alchemy, and that also would, or not necessarily crypto, but yeah, just more of your background and what exactly Alchemy is focused on with NFTs.
Sure. So I'm with Origin Protocol, and I have personally been working for 20 years, contracting, building everything from embedded firmware in assembly on ARM chips to industrial systems, web applications, just a huge mix of completely different kinds of programming stuff. I've been working with Origin Protocol for about 3 years, and that was my introduction to crypto. I knew several of the founders, and I've been really enjoying getting into the guts of that too.
Awesome, thank you, Daniel. And Paul, what about you? What's your background? And
what's up, guys? Michael, thank you for having me. Very happy to be here. I personally come from a traditional finance background, so working at places like Franklin Templeton, Blackstone, even working as a trader in New York for a while before I made the transition into the crypto space full-time in 2016. I've been with Alchemy for about 2 years now, helping out on the growth side. For a little bit of context, Alchemy is a blockchain developer platform. We're blockchain agnostic. We're offering developers really rich APIs and developer tools. Right now, we're publicly supporting Ethereum, also working on supporting Flow when they do their big launch. Exploring other layer 2s like Arbitrum. I think that should actually be live today on Alchemy. And right now we're working with every major NFT platform from OpenSea, Makerspace, Nifty Gateway, Super Rare. I think 9 out of the 10 largest NFT sales have happened on top of Alchemy at this point. So a lot of exciting stuff happening, and really happy to be here today.
awesome, thanks, Paul. And Colin, what about you?
Yeah, I'm here from Zilliqa. Obviously, we're a high-performance, high-security blockchain out of Singapore, using sharding technology to process transactions at high speed. We've thrown ourselves completely into the NFT space with our own ZRC1 protocol, and we've got projects coming out of our ears. It's the most exciting time I've found in the blockchain. My first introduction to the blockchain was buying Bitcoin from an ATM in 2013. So that's where I started.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin. So there's now a lot of protocols that are that have incorporated NFTs. I wonder how you guys think about which platform to launch to build with. Like how do you guys think about how do you choose which protocol? And Colin, maybe let's start with you this time. And I know that you from Zilliqa, obviously you Zilliqa has introduced NFTs, which is great. So in your case, why Zilliqa?
Yeah, so we're obviously a very low cost blockchain. Of course, gas fees have become a clear issue on Ethereum, and it's something which, when you look at the different ways of processing and paying for NFTs, then Zilliqa is one of the most cost-effective ways to do it. We also have a very low carbon footprint in terms of our proof of work. We're literally only mining for 1 minute every 2 hours, so our carbon status is very low annually, which is really encouraging for artists who think about the ecological outcome. And of course, we have our Scala smart contract language, which is highly secure, computationally verified, and allows a lot more business processing languaging in terms of the way it's written. So there are many different ways to add content, add different elements to NFTs, metadata. Zilliqa is the most flexible.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Colin, but Zilliqa is a layer 2 of Ethereum, so it's also compatible with Ethereum, or fully unique protocol?
It's a layer 1 blockchain. It's entirely its own blockchain. It's a native blockchain, but we are soon to launch an Ethereum bridge, so that's of interest to the community at large.
Right. Yeah, you're doing bridges. Cool. So you brought up a good point that I think would have value for you to go a bit deeper on, and the significant minting and transacting fees of Ethereum. So I think that it would be good for you to share a bit more of your perspective on how big a problem that is, and how Zilliqa is solving that.
Yeah. So the basic premise of Zilliqa was to challenge the issues that Ethereum had in the early days, namely from the CryptoKitties bottleneck. That was the first challenge in processing speed. And then secondarily, the increasing gas fees, which in the past few months have become quite incredible and made NFT artwork sales very difficult for people, because the cost of processing that transaction has actually outweighed the cost of the artwork itself in some cases. So we have a partner called Mintable. I think Mark Cuban invested in that platform, and it has both ETH and Zilliqa on its platform. And effectively, Zilliqa has become the cost-effective part of that platform for those folks who don't want to give up large amounts in gas fees for their artwork.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin. So Paul, for you, I think Alchemy is primarily building on Ethereum. Are there any other protocols that that you've integrated? You said you're planning to integrate Flow, right?
Planning on integrating Flow later this month, as well as other layer 2s like Arbitrum. Exactly. So
you obviously sit on at least currently on the Ethereum side of the table, but it sounds like
yeah.
So why Ethereum? Yeah, why are you building on Ethereum?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it was no secret that for a long time, and in some ways still is, that Ethereum's really the only game in town. I think now the high gas costs, high wait times have allowed opportunities like other blockchains like Zilliqa and BSC to come in and take some of the traffic away from Ethereum. Gas costs have gotten so bad where if you want to deploy an NFT smart contract, that's going to cost you a couple $100 in transaction fees, right? That's a huge hindrance, so much so that people just won't go through with that action. And that's something that you don't want to see, right? So for us, it's all about like, how do we approach this problem from a holistic viewpoint? There's other players in the market like developers, the buyers and sellers, as well as the content creators. And so for us, Because we're a developer platform, we want to provide developers with the tools to help them build better NFT purchasing experiences. So providing them with all the tools to be able to do that and to shorten their time to market with all the features that they're launching. On the buying and selling side, obviously high gas costs is a really big issue. So introducing layer twos like Arbitrum for that, giving developers the optionality to build there and pass on the savings onto their end users, as well as offering support for Flow blockchain, which is optimized for each part of the life cycle of the transaction to minimize the cost there. And then on the content creator side, they really just want to be able to have like a really seamless experience. For them, like if you can lower the friction enabled for them to post their NFT, to get it out there in the world and to share it with people, that's awesome. Like right now, one of the hard requirements across almost every NFT platform is like you have to accept crypto as payment. And that's awesome. That's great. I think there's a lot of value in that. But that severely limits you to the demographic that you can sell to, right? So there are platforms like Nifty Gateway and Megaspace that also accept credit card payments. And that's when you're going to see like a lot of those big sales happen. A lot of the people that are building kind of bespoke experiences, building their own website and hosting that are going to have the credit card payment experience. There's a lot of different pieces also involved in that, but I want to give Daniel an opportunity to speak on this as well.
Yeah, Daniel, what about your perspective? I think Origin is Origin on Ethereum, or is it?
Yes, we're currently on Ethereum. Traditional ERC 721s. Our current market is a combination of celebrities and artists. And so for us, the transaction fees aren't an issue, given that we're pretty much running high-end auctions. However, we are going to be expanding, and we are constantly playing with new protocols and other solutions. So I'm excited about Flow. I'm interested in BSC. We've also tried out Solana and several others. But for now, Ethereum is the first tier solution for things. And if Ethereum didn't have gas prices and congestion, most people would probably be there. But given that it does, other solutions have room to come in and succeed.
So Daniel, you brought up an interesting point there, that because you're and I agree, Ethereum is definitely first to market, and for the ultra high value segment of the NFT market, which is a interesting and quite viral segment. If someone is buying art for $1 million or even $100,000, even $5,000, $50 gas fees or $25 gas fees or $100 minting fees is not changing the world. But there are many segments of the NFT market. I'd love to hear how you guys think about the different opportunities and what you're seeing in addition to the high value collectible market, where the opportunities are in the future of NFTs. Maybe we can continue with it.
Yes, so I see the future as almost limitless, but as very splitting up into lots of different areas. So for example, if we skip out of the NFT world into the physical collection world, we have sneaker collectors who are passionate about sneakers, and you have Picasso collectors who love Picassos, and they're served by almost entirely different markets, even though they're both collecting things and collecting rare things. And there's different, the entire audience is different, the marketplaces are different. And I don't think NFTs is such in reality, such a broad category with so many directions that it can go, that there's going to be lots of different marketplaces, lots of different entirely successful things in entirely different areas in the future of NFTs. If that answers your question.
Yeah, Paul, what about you? How would you segment the market in addition to the high value collectible side? What other up and coming opportunities are you seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just think we're at the kind of the tip of the icebergs when it comes to the NFT space. Because the NFT is just a token standard for transmitting a file on the blockchain, you can have multiple applications. It doesn't have to be just like the high-end art market. It can be applied to anything from gaming, financial products like carbon credits, music and royalties, medical records. So when you think about it like that, two big things come to mind. The immediate one is the gaming use case. NFTs can actually unlock massive amounts of wealth locked up in games like Fortnite. People around the world spend billions of dollars on skins within the game, again, an in-game item. Other than kind of the aesthetics, there's no real utility to them, but people value them a lot, right? So if you can figure out a way to have these in-game items be transferable and tradable, you can basically create a whole new economy for all these gamers around the world. And that's massive, right? Like you're unlocking massive amounts of wealth already locked up in these games. The second piece is NFTs, like even if it's the high end or low end of the market, what you're doing is basically creating a direct relationship with the content creators and their fans. And so because you're enabling this new way of interacting with people, you're going to be starting to see NFTs challenge business models like Instagram, where people don't really get rewarded for posting. They get rewarded in maybe like social clout, but they have to continue to do that until they reach a certain level, and then they're going to have the ability to have sponsorship engagements. Whereas NFTs, like you don't have to go through that clout building. You can already have that, instant access if you're building kind of content that's relevant for your fans to interact with you directly. So those are two big things that come to mind.
Definitely. I think that it would be great for you to go a bit deeper into that. I think that a lot of the audience and a lot of people that are looking outside the NFT market look at NFTs as goofy collectibles. How could you spend 69 million bucks on a piece of art or on a piece of digital art that you can't even hang on your wall? And I think they miss the point that an NFT is just a token standard that provides a unique and cryptographic relationship between the creator and the collector. And what that means is really arbitrary. It's up to the creator to provide value, which in theory could be priceless if you are cryptographically connected with someone, or if you have their email address or blockchain address, you can forever send them priceless, fungible, and or non-fungible value. So Paul, it'd be great for you to dive a bit deeper into what that means and how you might see that impacting or other traditional businesses.
Yeah, that's a great comment. So, the analogy I like to give is if any of you guys have been to like an art show, people aren't clapping when they bring out the artwork. They're clapping when people spend hundreds of millions of dollars on the artwork. So they're celebrating kind of the money and the status, right? And right now, when you're buying these NFTs, you're definitely not buying IP rights unless it's explicitly stated. What you are buying is kind of culture and status. Now, you kind of touched on a really good point that at this point in time, there's not a really good way of displaying or showcasing the NFTs that you own. I think that's a really big problem that people need to solve, which is kind of the wallet use case. But right now, kind of one way to make up for that is increasing the utility of these NFTs. I think Kings of Leon did something really cool, which was basically offer their token holders of these NFTs kind of future access to front row tickets to any of their shows. That's a really cool use case because there's actually tangible value there, right? Now there's other ways of increasing kind of all utility for these NFTs, which is like having a deeper intersection with DeFi, right? Imagine if you were able to use NFTs as collateral. You could have instant access to more liquidity. You're able to do with this stuff what you will, right? Like, I think there's a lot of things that can be done to increase just the absolute value of kind of holding the NFT rather than just like making the artwork look really cool on a visual aspect of it.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Andrew. Colin, what about you? How would you segment the NFT market, in addition to the high value collectibles that are, or high value NFTs that are going viral? Where do you see opportunities?
Yeah, so we're seeing that sports is the battering ram right now. It's the #1 category in NFTs. I think art is about four places back, but we're doing a project called the Football Stars with 10 of the biggest names in Europe, and that enables the direct connection between the fan and the player, which is completely unique. And obviously, it's there on the blockchain. It's a valuable item, but also they get merchandise with that, which is just creating this human connection using the blockchain as the anchor, the proof that you have that relationship with the player and that you've invested in that important memorial of that player. So that's quite exciting as a project. We have another partner called UFFS. We've just announced the deal with the NFL alumni. So they have an amazing fantasy gameplay platform, and their NFTs are there to drive recurring revenue for the lifetime of the player and also for their descendants even. As long as that fantasy gameplay is live and generating revenue, they will receive some money for the effort they've put into their career, whether it was in 1980, 1990, year 2000. And this is a very exciting way to keep NFTs alive, to keep them involved in stats and data. And there's even a very exciting idea to go regressively, going back year by year, back to maybe even the 1960s for players. So trading cards that are alive and going backwards, it's a living creative innovation, which is so exciting to see. And those guys are doing great work in that space. We're also seeing with XCAD, another partner who's working with some of the biggest YouTubers like Mr. Beast and KSI. They've got these unique ways to develop the profile of the influencer, put that into an NFT space, make that a live idea. There's another project launching on Zilliqa called Demons, which actually has 5 different ways of driving rewards for those who are just holding the NFT. They get their own coin, they get their own governance, they can actually name their own dragon, they can name their own image, and then if someone wants to buy it, they can scratch that name, pay for it. The token goes into a pool, and that rewards everyone. It's the most amazing fluid innovation you can imagine in the way that people interact with NFTs. We like collectibles, we like great pieces of art, but the living NFT is the most exciting way we're going now.
Very cool. Great comment. So you brought up most of the NFTs that have happened were either startups, initially all startups like CryptoKitties or CryptoPunks, whatever. And then we had a great wave that I think has really created mass adoption for all of crypto, or stimulated mass adoption for all of crypto, because we have A-list celebrities like Mr. Beast and RSI. So congrats on that release, Colin. That is creating mainstream awareness of digital assets, even if they don't understand what NFTs are. But you brought up professional sports teams. And I think that a really exciting trend, or not trend, but now we're starting to get some of the biggest enterprises in the world doing NFT drops, or wanting to get into the blockchain in the non-fungible side, probably in the fungible side eventually too, but non-fungibles have the good fortune of being less of a regulatory threat. So Colin, I'd love for you to share your perspective on how you are, like, when you first introduced NFTs, the type of conversations you were having, and now obviously bring big brands into the NFT space, how that conversation has been changing.
Yeah, it's a stark difference from 6 months ago. I think it was really pioneering, people just dipping their toe in the water, I think Soldier Boy was one of the first people that came to us and said, can I do an NFT? And that started a whole series of interactions with people across the music industry, across the art industry. Then we did a project with Terence Bud Crawford, who's a welterweight champion, a very successful, undefeated welterweight champion from the US. So then a lot of sports stars and sports agents came to us. So this created this huge momentum of people asking about NFTs and trying to work out what the commercial model should be for putting their likeness into an NFT registration on the blockchain. So this makes life really easy. Once you get a whole bunch of people that you can say they've worked with us, they've issued an NFT on the Zilliqa blockchain, and it just snowballs from there. You do need that celebrity star power to get the first things done, but after that you can then work into the space which I described, which is much more exciting, the innovation space. We launched with the National Museum in Singapore at the event they had on May the 21st, index fund for emerging artists. So we will create a DAO type structure, and we will have curators working to invest in emerging artists as well as more famous artists. So we're trying to cover both sides, but it's all happened literally in a 6-month window that we've gone from discovery to massive adoption across multiple blockchains, multiple communities, and of course, enterprises, brands, and sports stars. So it's just been an amazing uplift for all of us.
It is very exciting indeed. Paul, what about you? You've participated in some of the highest value drops ever. How have the conversations you've been changing, or you've been having changing, and I know that you guys have done a lot for art and music. Are you starting to get, are big brands starting to, how's the conversation evolving, not just with creators or traditional creators, but also with enterprises?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the most exciting things about the NFT space is how inclusive the use case is for everybody. Like NFTs is driving folks from more traditional industries and enterprises into crypto, which is awesome. I thought for a long time the killer application for crypto would have been DeFi, and I think in some cases it might be in the medium to longer term. But right now in the short term, it really looks like NFTs are the ones that are going to be driving adoption and accelerating that trend for us. So at Alchemy, one of the big things that we've been focusing on is how do we educate people that are looking to come into the NFT space. Colin, I'm sure there's like a ton of education that goes into a lot of these conversations for people that are reaching out to you. Like, people are so disoriented when it comes to NFTs. They want to get involved, but they don't know where to start, right? So we have people from the biggest names in music, sports, art, like any industry, you name it, are reaching out to us either by seeing us in the press or kind of by word of mouth referrals in the ecosystem. So we'll just spend 1 hour with them, just explaining what an NFT is, how they're thinking about it, why it's important to them, giving them a deeper understanding of the landscape and the nuances that come into kind of launching an NFT and the strategy that goes into that, and hoping to set them up for success and to let them tackle their NFT use case, whatever it may be. Typically, we have at least a half a dozen of these conversations each week. I honestly cannot keep up with the demand. There's just so much interest from all these different people. You are starting to see more traditional enterprises want to get into the space. I think more so from an exploration standpoint, to see how it goes. There are some people that are in it for the money grab, but I think a lot of these people are doing it as a new way to interact with fans. So it's capturing a lot of attention from people around the world, because a lot of these are recognizable names. I love Hashmask. Those guys were kind of the first customers on Alchemy, actually. Love the CryptoKitty guys. Those guys, one of the first customers on Alchemy as well. But to the external person, those things don't really mean anything. If someone sells a Travis Scott NFT or a Kim Kardashian NFT, that has a more profound effect on kind of the external world, people that aren't natives into the crypto ecosystem. So that's kind of what we try to work on, is getting as many folks into the door as possible. And I think it's something to be said that, you know, these NFTs are creating a new economy. So a lot of people are interested in that. And when you're enabling kind of a new way for people to make money, usually a lot of interesting and good things happen.
Thanks, Paul. So I think that another very unique perspective that you might be able to share. So you're doing some of the highest value drops of NFTs ever. How do you think about valuing the NFTs that are coming to market?
Yeah, that's a great question. The appraisal side of the market has always been a little bit murky, right? Like, people that are spending millions of dollars on these NFTs, there's only a small group of people in the ecosystem that have the capacity to be able to spend those dollars, right? And some of these NFTs will hold their value, some of them won't. I think the function of that will just be determined by kind of the nature of the NFTs, whether or not they are considered true collectibles down the line. We have kind of experienced this initial cycle of excitement and exuberance. I think right now you're seeing that, you know, die down a little bit. We're going through this consolidation period, which I think, in my opinion, a lot of the interesting stuff and tooling is being built right now to get the ecosystem ready for the next wave of users. But it's going to be very tough to actually have like an objective value point for these collectibles. Like, everyone is going to value it differently because they just see them differently. And I think that's one of the most unique things about the NFT space, is it lets you capture kind of that unique value that only maybe some people see it as, maybe not everyone sees it as. So it's going to be like kind of a work in progress right now. I don't think there's like a real good rubric of going about kind of appraising these from an objective perspective. It's going to be very subjective at this point in time.
So a comment I'll make on that. I've been thinking about valuing NFTs a lot. You brought up Kings of Leon having a attendance to their concert as part of the NFT, which I would say is not ultra high value, but might be ultra high value is if Kings of Leon is connected to their collectors through the blockchain, and every concert that Kings of Leon has, they send out NFTs representing either general attendance, either or perhaps a discount to the concerts, perhaps VIP at the concert for the higher value collectors, perhaps a meet and greet, perhaps backstage. You know, how much value is the collector to Kings of Leon? And if you can start to consider, I think that there's no collectors that have, or no creators that have like defined this type of long-term rewards. But if it's reasonable to assume there might be these type of long-term rewards, then let's say that Kings of Leon is doing concerts all around North America, and a collector is in Sydney, Australia. They might not be able to go, but they'd be able to sell those NFTs representing arbitrary value, which would generate cash flows for the NFT collectors, which, you know, starts to create some fundamentals, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic, right? Like, you can almost do a discounted cash flow on that, right? And I think like, as soon as you can increase the actual utility of the NFTs, then it becomes much easier to value these. Like, right? Like, if you want to launch a financial product like carbon credits, like, you already have the value of that NFT. But if you want to do something like more subjective, like high-end art, like, that's always going to be, you know, to the eye of the beholder, right? Like, all these large NFT sales that have happened, like 9 out of the 10 largest ones, those have been purely just kind of high-end art collections. I think the next wave will be kind of what Kings of Leon doing, which you have talked about, adding kind of the underlying value there as kind of a minimum threshold to see that kind of valuation take place.
Daniel, I wonder your thoughts. So I know Origin has a whole ecosystem that includes DeFi, it includes a stable coin, includes NFTs, which, by the way, I don't even think that I could fully explain how the whole ecosystem is connected. But I know you guys have some really exciting next generation stuff that is going on, building out some unique usefulness like this. So yeah, I guess it would be great. I think it would provide value for the audience for you to explain the full scope of how you have of what you're doing with NFTs and how it relates to DeFi, and to stable coins and to NFTs.
Yeah, fantastic. So let me start with stablecoins first. We have a product called the Origin Dollar, which is a DeFi product, and it basically handles investing into Compound, Aave, other DeFi products that provide yield. But as gas prices have gone up, it gets really expensive to do the necessary steps to actually earn yield from these things. Unless you basically put it there and don't touch it, it's extremely easy to cost more in fees than you would ever gain in yields. So with the Origin Dollar, each dollar is one-to-one backed by stablecoins invested in other protocols. And so as you just hold this dollar, you get more dollars. So it functions like essentially like a traditional bank account. You don't have to spend any gas, do anything. You know, the number of coins in your account goes up, and it's always backed. So that's our Origin Dollar. It provides a really good entry into DeFi. It's a kind of no mess, no fuss. It just sits there and grows, but you can trade in and out of it at any time you want. So that is our DeFi product. And as we see increasing adoption on that, we've almost doubled in supply in the last month. Eventually, the goal is to get that so that it's on all exchanges and so that it can be used actually for transacting back and forth, because it's better than another stablecoin. You know, which one would you rather be having sitting in your bank, something that's going to be growing or something that's just going to be staying at $1? And so the end goal then is to get the Origin Dollar to being a first tier medium of exchange, something like Tether or DAI USDC. And currently, there's not a direct tie-in with NFTs, and other than the fact that all the auctions we run, you can also purchase these with the Origin Dollar.
I wonder about for Paul, Colin. I think that an exciting next trend of NFTs is DeFi on NFTs, collateralizing NFTs, lending against it. And yield farming with NFTs. I wonder if either of you guys have a perspective on that and are starting to build out that functionality here. Yeah, any thoughts?
Yes, the project I mentioned earlier, Demons, is actually basically starting that point where you just hold the NFT and that gives you rewards. When you actually do something with the NFT, even right through until gaming, it will have a 3D avatar. You can play against other NFTs. You can earn rewards from that as well. So there's many ways to actually monetize in a DeFi context this particular token that they're going to generate. And it also has a governance function as well for voting. There's also a quadratic voting angle on the project. So it's completely involved in the DeFi space, using all of the fine elements of DeFi to help generate a living, breathing project which can make money. It's also got a bonded yield curve, so the next tranche of tokens will be at a higher value, and they will keep stepping up over time. So all of the kind of economic logic of DeFi has gone into the NFT planning and the game design. So it's quite an exciting way to go.
Can you just dive into for the audience? I think not everyone is familiar with the bonding curve and what that would mean for that. If you could just go into a bit more detail on that, figure out that value.
Yeah, so there's a set number of tokens that are released, and the value of that is obviously there's a market value to that. But over time, it should increase due to scarcity in exchange. And then this sets a base level, which when you issue another tranche on top of that, at a different price point, creates ongoing value, which is tied to the ownership and scarcity. So the curve continues onwards. The bonding is the token to the supply and demand, and that keeps a sort of market level value to the token. So it's general economics, the bonded yield curve. You can go on YouTube and see a lot of videos about that, but it's very important to have this scarcity and demand in balance.
Definitely, and thanks for that. Paul, what about you? How are you thinking about DeFi meet NFTs, or are you guys doing anything with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I personally see that as like a very important step for the evolution of NFTs. I think there's a lot of fundamental problems of the NFT market that DeFi can fix. I think the initial phase of the hype cycle for NFTs was just kind of the buying and selling of the artwork. Right now, during this period of consolidation, I do think there's a lot of interesting stuff being done around the intersection of NFTs and DeFi. I think the first piece here is unlocking value through the non-fungibility of these NFTs in a lot of these games or a lot of these existing items around the world. Once you're able to do that, you can start leveraging those assets because you have absolute ownership over them. And so that's when you can start to use these things as collateral to gain liquidity. You have access to capital, right? Like, why should you have all this wealth locked up in a Fortnite game, but you don't have that wealth in kind of the external world, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And that's one of the things that NFTs can enable. The other piece here is derivatives, right? Like, derivative market is like 100 times larger than the equities or the fixed income market, right? So you can offer that. And the reason why derivatives is so interesting is you can start to have things like index funds, or people can buy fractional ownership of these NFTs. And that allows deeper liquidity to be built in these NFT marketplaces. And it's also interesting for maybe some of these traditional investment funds. They're not actually able to hold NFTs directly, but can have exposure to it through index funds or some of these other derivatives.
Thanks. So I see two questions from the audience. I'm just going to touch on really quickly. I want to go through and ask your guys' perspective on how quickly adoption is going to happen. But as far as actually, I wonder how are copyrights and resources, or how are NFTs protecting from people stealing artwork or music and minting NFTs on that? Any of you guys have a strong opinion on that?
Sure. First of all, the real value of the NFT is actually the ownership part of it. So even though everybody can see the art for the most part, the value is in the ownership. It's in the rarity. And the rest of that pretty much just falls under the traditional, the same protections that everything else has. So I don't think that there's a magical technical solution that provides something different than it currently exists. It's certainly easy enough to make a website that only unlocks when you have the NFT. And that's, certainly doable.
I think so good points. I think also we've spoken about the unique access that NFTs can provide, like getting a ticket to Kings of Leon, or getting additional value from the digital ownership of your NFT. And if it's not Kings of Leon that is issuing the NFT, then it's difficult for someone random to bake in that usefulness. But we're just about out of time. I'd love to just go through and for you guys in one sentence to share your thoughts on where we're going to be for NFT adoption in 5 years.
Man, that's a heavy question, Michael. Of course you would end with something like that. I personally see kind of NFTs as a long-term opportunity, right? That's not to say that there won't be market cycles. But I do believe we're kind of at the beginning phase of a mega cycle for NFTs. I think the artwork is just kind of the initial use case, but you're going to see this go across every kind of industry, every kind of function in business. And it's going to be at a point where like maybe in 5+ years, you're going to see a good chunk, a lot of public companies have NFTs involved in some kind of business model on their side.
So I'm also going to not go with one sentence, but I think NFTs is a huge long-term opportunity. They digging up in a Viking site in Sweden, and they found where this person had a Buddha statue from India and like a pan from the middle of Africa and stuff from Ireland. But anyway, humans have always collected cool and rare things. The first stamp collector book was in 1774, which was actually 65 years before the first postage stamps were even invented. The guy was collecting tax stamps. But this ties into a deep human thing, is incredibly useful, and I think this is just the beginning in the long term.
All right, Colin? One sentence, where are we going
to
for NFTs?
Just from the day-to-day, associations, sports associations all over the world are running RFPs for NFTs, right down to the ticketing to get into the stadium. There will be a connection between the NFT and every single part of a fan experience for major events all over the world. So that'll be standard in 5 years.
Awesome. Daniel, Paul, Colin, thank you all very much for participating. I speak for myself, but I hope you guys too, or I think you guys, ideally you guys think similarly. This has been a thought-provoking conversation, and I look forward to seeing where all of your projects go over the coming years.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us, Michael. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you indeed.
Great stuff. Thanks, guys.